Hello, this is the Orc Tactical Team, and this is going to be kind of a counter actually to my last video. So last video was talking all about the art of the speed bump, how to get in people's way and how to slow them down so you can control where combat is, or control when the magic phase is happening, and even just stopping them so if last turn they can't score points. Now we're going to look at this from the other side of the table. Now you're the one facing the speed bump, and really, what are you going to be doing so that you can be trying to break through this and put yourself in the best situation possible? So I guess the very first thing you need to do whenever you're faced with a speed bump is take a very close look at what the positioning is and what the very situation is. It could just be that your opponent has just thrown something in your face to slow you down, but really gives them no tactical benefit other than that. It could just be that, well, if I look at this, he doesn't have any strong magic. There's nothing going to be flanking me. If I charge this and destroy it, he'll get the flank on me, but that's just one combat res. I don't care. Let's go ahead. Of course, if it's a more canny opponent, if you're going to a tournament or something, they're probably not just throwing units in your face. So that could be something that is not even going to come up, but just look at the situation. Know that if I move up, am I going to be being flanked? It's just so important to look at this. And I guess the next aspect to this is the fact that you can actually be using this speed bump to get into better position. And this might seem kind of crazy, but it actually is possible. And it becomes more possible the farther away that speed bump unit is from you. And the whole reason why that is because you get that free wheel whenever you charge. And you don't just have to run face first into something, you get the wheel first. And what that really does is it's going to change where your actual unit is contacting. And really, so if you just think about, this is something where it might be nice for me to have my whiteboard to explain, but it could be something where if you charge straight on, you'd be nicely aligned, straight and straight, but if you wheeled first, then all of a sudden the majority of your unit could be on one side. And what that could allow you to do is that if his flank unit is over here trying to get at you, and you're going to be more on this side, well, all of a sudden you might be out of their line of sight for their 45 degrees. It could be a longer charge, so they're going to fail it now. All these things could be helping you. It could also be, if they were really not careful, that the way you position it could actually get you into combat with a different unit. It could even offer you up a flank, depending on what you actually can see and how far you're going to get lucky with your overrun. And that's probably another part of it too. You have to really take in that whole risk factor. Because, like I just said, with that one scenario where you're trying to wheel and then overrun so that the one unit can't see your flank, well, if all of a sudden you just don't overrun far enough, well, then all of a sudden you could just get flanked, and it would have been better just to really stand there and a kind of combat reform to put everything on your front. So not only do you have to look at the situation and all the possibilities, but you also have to weigh all these risks and knowing that there is the dice behind it. Now, probably something else you have to be looking at with this is just knowing, is my unit frenzied? Because what they could be trying to do, let's say you're using your Savage Orcs or something like that, is the whole thing of where you go into them, and then if you slaughter them or if they break, you're going to be forced to chase them into overrun. And of course, that can be putting you into a very bad spot. It'll give you no options whatsoever. So whereas if you were planning with a different unit, I'm going to charge in, I'm going to kill this, and then I'm going to combat reform. Well, if you're savages and you have frenzy, you don't have that option. So really make sure you're not falling into that trap. If you are into that whole situation where you can see that they are trying to bait you out, some of the things you can do to get out of this is if in the unit you have a couple of throwaway characters, maybe you put in a big boss in there just for some extra punch, or maybe you have a support shaman or something, charge him out of the unit. Then all of a sudden the unit won't be charging, it can combat reform, your shaman can probably, your character, deal with that unit on its own, and then after that you can keep on going. Again, there's the risk in it, right? If it is just a shaman compared to a big boss, can it really take it out? Is it just harpies or something really weak? You're going to have to really look at that. Something else you can do, depending on what else you have, is maybe this turn you're just going to combat reform, and then you're just going to make sure that during your shooting phase and magic phase, you're going to be blasting that unit apart. So basically you're going to be losing a turn of movement, but at least you're not going to be losing the entire unit by getting yourself into a flanking position and then you lose the whole thing. Now let's take this into another part where all of a sudden there's going to be no avoiding. You really need to push forward, you really need to get in there, but if you move up your main unit, you're going to get flanked. Well, the next thing to look at is that this is not a vacuum, right? You do not have just one unit in your army, or hopefully you don't. And so what you need to be doing then is looking at the rest of your army and say, okay, what are his threats? He's going to be trying to charge me on his turn. He's trying to get the magic phase on his turn. All right, well then what I'm going to do is send up my own fast cav so that when I charge that and overrun, he on his turn is going to have to charge my throwaway unit and then come into me so that the magic will be on my following magic phase. Or if his whole idea is that he's trying to come in from the flank, well then this unit here is going to get into their way to make sure that, okay, now I destroy your throwaway unit, I move up, and now we're going to fight. You know, and again, if there's that magic issue again, you can have your fast cav just trading places. Something else as well, depending on what the situation is, if it's really tight and you're trying to go for the win, it could be a thing where you want that fast cav in order to get the 100 points, whatever it is, for the win, but then you don't want to risk them attacking you, getting Mind Razor, and winning the game that way. So what you're going to be doing then is setting up actually a unit to go behind. And what that'll mean is that you'll attack the speed bump, destroy it, you'll stay where you are. On their turn, they're going to charge you. You'll flee over your own throwaway unit, go to somewhere around the back of the board, and then, you know, they can't get you. They can then redirect, say, into that fast cav, and they can jump over. And of course, that'll be a real balance of points, right? If your let's say Wolf Cav is going to be more expensive than, let's say, the unit of Harpies they threw in front of you, well, then that trade's not going to work. But if they have a more expensive throwaway unit that they put in front of you, hoping it's going to set up to take out your larger block, that's something you can set up. So that's the main part there. There are other aspects to it as well. Something you might want to do when you are just first deploying in the game is trying to look out, okay, what is he even going to be using as speed bumps in this game? What are his throwaway units? What are going to be controlling the battlefield? And it could be then on your first turn, instead of sending off your Foot of Gork or your Doom Divers or your whatever at their main units, it could be that you actually want to be going after these smaller units. And of course, you're going to have to gauge what the armies are, how good of an opponent you're up against. I mean, if it's just going to be somebody that's going to be taking these, they're just going to swing around, try and get your war machines, you can deal with those things later. But if you can see that, you know, okay, oh, this is Dark Elves, he has this big horde of witches, he has this person that you know he's going to go for Mind Razor, and he's going to be trying to set this up with these Harpies, well, for God's sakes, send those Doom Divers after those Harpies to get them out of the way so that you can control it. So before the situation even happens and these guys are in front of you, make sure you're looking at this the very first turn so that this doesn't fall into your face, and that's the way it's going to go. Let's go back to the situation now again where they're going to be having their unit, the throwaway unit, and then you're here. Hey, it's a throwaway unit. Huh! No. Another thing you can do is, when I was saying looking for your other units, try and find a way to make that combat happen in this turn. And of course, the easy way to do that is just charge some other unit into the far one, and then when you charge into the little throwaway unit, you can beat it, overrun, go into the main unit. Now that's a new combat, and you get to fight them again. So really, stuff like that, it's all this about situational awareness. Just from the very first thing I said, as soon as you get in a situation, look at everything, see what's on the board, try and assess what all the threats are. If I charge in here, where am I going to go? What is he going to counter with? What are my possible counters to this? What's the risk and the potential in here? And then really, if it's trying to be something where it's going to be really tight, making sure that you have fail-safes. Okay, I'm going to have this to block this unit. I'm going to have this unit behind me so I can jump and get away. Just something like that. So anyway, there you go. We talked about the speed bumps. We talked about the counters to speed bumps, and there you have it. Thank you for watching. Bye.